We're talking about memoir. When we talk about a memoir group, I guess the first thing we need to think about if we're getting people together, really strangers we don't know, is how do you develop trust so that people can feel comfortable enough with one another so they're going to kind of want to talk about their experiences. A way that I do that is to have people share something about themselves. The Philadelphia cream cheese wooden boxes. So we took the two ends of the Philadelphia cream cheese boxes, nailed them together, and that was our bucket.
Well, I remember making footballs out of rolled up newspaper with cut up bicycle tubes as the binder to hold the newspaper together. You could throw a very good spiral. My kids thought this was absolutely kooky.
I remember my brother and most of the little boys that he knew were busy making radios. They really, I don't know where they got the material, but they seem to have found them around the house, odds and ends, and that was our first chance at listening to a radio.
What I do in a memoir group is talk about how can we get started? What's our, in a sense, our mission, our working agreement, and how we're going to do this together?
Or to write something about our first coming here and the different reactions as a finale to our class.
And I say that we're not going to be judgmental. People are going to talk about their stories, and these stories are very real to them. And we're going to also look at what are some of the strengths that we see in people's lives as they're reading these stories.
Old age. Two things struck me as I returned to my island home this year. It is old and I am old. It looks tired, dark, the furniture is faded. It smells old, sour, and musty. The clothes that were left hanging on hooks, a bathrobe and an old shirt, a stretched-out bathing suit, had the smell of old people. I remember that smell of my father's clothes when I would wash them. I emptied the drawer where my brother kept his island clothes and put them in a bag to take to the rummage sale. He will never come again, as he now lives in a nursing home in Texas. He smiles when I mention the name of the island and lapses into a silence, occasionally broken when a thought struggles to the surface. And he says for the fourth time, "He'll fly up soon."
In early August, I returned to Lubeck with my daughter Betsy to once again connect with the Down East summers of long ago.
The support that they get from one another and the socialization that takes place adds to their comfort and adds to the trust. So they're able to talk about things that at first may seem unpleasant.
The freezer was the tall one. It was a 5-gallon freezer.
And you had to crank that?
It took a long time.
I bet it is.
All our life experiences are not rosy, and as we can talk about the unpleasantness as well as the nice things that we've had in our lives, other people in the group will also find connections with their lives, and so that makes it some more of a group enterprise.
Things were churning through the 30s.
You too may be related to Obama.
Obama.
Well, he's related to Strong Thurman.
That's not good.
It's a real classic.
So what happens? What happens in the group? Hopefully the trust is there. People in the group have some input into what this working agreement is on how they're going to do this together.
The road is so bad I clamber over ledges, rocks, and sandy crevices that have been gouged out by melting snow and torrential spring rains. When I descend to the beach, I must return by climbing 38 steps carved into the side of the hill. They are in need of yearly repair. As I pull myself up the bank, I wonder this may be my last year here. Will I be able to meet the challenge of simply walking? But I have made a great discovery, which eases life for a bit. I found an old ski pole, which I use as a walking stick. What a difference that makes.
You might think of these memories as sort of dots in the mind and in the body. As we begin to talk about the story, we begin to connect the dots. What Connie and Tim Gifford.
Exactly.
Going back to those places.
Yeah.
Unforgettable.
We sometimes carry around within us a certain amount of guilt about what happened in our lives. And what I'm suggesting is that we allow ourselves to forgive ourselves for some of the feelings and experiences that we've had that we may not have been completely comfortable with.
Well, your children would never be interested in that. Why should I tell you that? But they would be interested, and she never would tell me.
Yeah.
Many of the stories that we've just read have that kind of emotion as well as the fact. And it brings it out very much into the present in life. Growing up as a young boy in Brooklyn, my father had a little grocery store. They called it an appetizing store. And he was busy. It could be 7 days a week that the store was open. And I was a little kid, and I didn't feel that I was getting enough of my father's attention. And I was feeling abandoned. And I carried around that feeling for a long, long time. And then gradually, as I was able to talk about it, as I was able to experience some of what those feelings were like, I realized that he was doing the best for his family. He was a provider. And during that time, providing for your family, especially during a period of the Depression, and some of those years did include the Depression years, he saw that as a major value for himself and for his family. And I could write about, and I could share it with other people in the group. I can get their reactions about what this was like for me, and it might also help people in the group find experiences that they had around abandonment in their lives. And so that kind of forgiveness that I was able to give my father was so helpful in me feeling better about myself.
The story was wonderful. Had wonderful, exciting smells of groceries, leather harness, new Levi's, still worn only by real cowboys in that era, and the strange smell that I think may have been sheep dip, chemicals used on the sheep after shearing to rid them of ticks. To foil stick-ups, all cash was shot up to a cashier in a cage high above the floor, using little containers on wires. This contraption was endlessly fascinating to a 5-year-old boy.
So that the story becomes something that is more enriched, and hopefully we see some wisdom in the choices that we've made in our lives, and as we can be feeling more enriched and appreciative of what these stories have meant in our lives, you might say, hopefully, there's some kind of peacefulness that will develop where we can feel that our lives are well lived.
Yeah, that's right.
And you think you always thought you were going to write them, but now you really sit down and do it.
In doing that, it gives us more of a feeling of worthiness and something that we would want to pass on to our children, to our grandchildren. It becomes a legacy for us in passing on some of that knowledge and some of that wisdom. you.